Hi guys, tonight we're going to explore a fascinating question. What if human evolution hadn't slowed down, but instead accelerated to match the rapid changes in our modern world? What if our bodies were actively adapting to screens, sedentary lifestyles, and the artificial environments we've created? If you enjoy these thought-provoking sleep stories that challenge our understanding of what it means to be human, hit that like button and subscribe for more. And drop a comment letting me know what time it is where you are and where you're listening from. I always love hearing from all of you around the globe. Alright, let's begin. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and noticing that your fingernails have grown not just longer, but fundamentally different. They've become translucent, shot through with what appears to be a network of microscopic vessels, and when you hold them up to the light, you can see them pulse with your heartbeat. Your neighbour calls excitedly to tell you that her daughter's eyes have shifted from brown to an iridescent silver overnight, and she can now see individual raindrops from 3 blocks away. Across town, a construction worker discovers that his bones have become 15% denser, allowing him to lift loads that would have crushed his spine just days before. This isn't science fiction or the plot of a superhero movie. This is what our world might look like if human evolution hadn't slowed to its current glacial pace, but instead accelerated to match the rapid changes in our environment, technology, and way of life. For the past 10,000 years, human evolution has been running at what scientists call maintenance mode. The dramatic changes that transformed our species from tree-dwelling primates into the dominant force on Earth have slowed to subtle shifts that take millennia to become apparent. Our bodies are still essentially those of hunter-gatherers, designed for a world of seasonal scarcity, physical labour, and small tribal communities. Yet we live in an environment of abundant, sedentary work and global connectivity that would be utterly alien to our ancestors. What if evolution could catch up? What if our bodies were still rapidly adapting, not just to natural selection pressures, but to the artificial world we've created? The human genome contains approximately 3.2 billion base pairs, and every single cell in your body carries this complete instruction manual. Under normal circumstances, beneficial mutations spread through populations over hundreds or thousands of generations. But consider this. If evolution were accelerated to keep pace with technological change, we might see significant adaptations emerging within just a few generations, perhaps even within a single lifetime. The implications would be staggering, touching every aspect of human existence from our daily routines to the fundamental structure of society itself. Let's begin with the most obvious adaptation our bodies might develop in response to our screen-dominated world. The average American now spends over 7 hours per day looking at digital screens, with the typical smartphone user checking their device 96 times daily. Our eyes, evolved to scan horizons and track movement across vast landscapes, are now forced to focus on objects just 18 to 24 inches away for the majority of our waking hours. In an actively evolving human population, we might see dramatic changes to our visual system within just a few decades. The cornea, that clear dome at the front of your eye, might become more flexible and responsive. Instead of the relatively fixed curvature that requires glasses or contact lenses to correct, future humans might develop corneas that can actively adjust their shape throughout the day. Specialized muscles, perhaps evolved from the existing ciliary muscles that control our lens, could allow instant focus adjustment from the smartphone in your hand to the billboard across the street. The iris itself might become more sophisticated, developing additional layers of muscles that could control not just the amount of light entering the eye, but also filter specific wavelengths. Blue light, which disrupts our circadian rhythms and causes eye strain, might be automatically filtered out by evolved iris structures that appear as subtle golden or amber rings around our pupils. But the changes wouldn't stop at the front of the eye. The retina, that thin layer of light-sensitive cells at the back of your eyeball, contains approximately 130 million photoreceptor cells. In our evolving humans, this number might double or triple. More intriguingly, entirely new types of photoreceptors might emerge. While we currently have 3 types of cone cells that allow us to see red, green and blue light, many birds have 4 or 5 types, enabling them to see ultraviolet patterns invisible to us. Humans with accelerated evolution might develop tetrachromatic or even pentachromatic vision, seeing a world painted in colours we can't even imagine. The processing power required for this enhanced vision would demand corresponding changes to our brain structure. The visual cortex, located in the occipital lobe at the back of your brain, currently uses about 25% of your brain's total energy consumption. Enhanced visual processing might push this to 30 or 35%, requiring larger visual processing areas and more efficient neural pathways. The corpus callosum, the bridge of nerve tissue that connects the 2 hemispheres of your brain, might thicken to handle the increased information flow between the visual processing areas on each side. These visual adaptations would have profound effects on human culture and technology. Art, architecture and design would evolve to take advantage of our expanded colour perception. Imagine walking through a city where buildings shimmer with ultraviolet patterns, visible only to evolved human eyes, where street signs communicate through colour combinations that pack far more information into smaller spaces. Digital displays would be revolutionized, capable of showing millions more colours than current screens. Photography and cinematography would become entirely new art forms, capturing and displaying visual experiences impossible for our current eyes to perceive. But our evolving bodies wouldn't stop at visual enhancement. Consider the dramatic changes to our musculoskeletal system that might emerge in response to our increasingly sedentary lifestyle. The average office worker sits for approximately 10 hours per day, placing enormous stress on structures that evolved for constant movement. Our spine, with its S-shaped curve designed to absorb the shock of bipedal locomotion, suffers under prolonged sitting. In an actively evolving population, we might see the development of entirely new spinal structures. Additional vertebrae might emerge in the lumbar region, perhaps 4 or 5 instead of the current 5, with enhanced shock absorption properties. These new vertebrae might be connected by more sophisticated joint structures, allowing for greater flexibility and weight distribution while sitting. The intervertebral discs, those cushions between your vertebrae that frequently herniate under modern stress, might evolve thicker outer rings and more resilient gel centers. Some individuals might develop entirely new types of supportive tissue, perhaps cartilaginous struts that extend from the vertebrae to provide additional support for prolonged sitting positions. Our pelvic structure would need to adapt as well. The human pelvis, a masterpiece of engineering that balances the competing demands of bipedal locomotion and childbirth, might develop additional muscle attachment points to support our sitting heavy lifestyle. New muscles might evolve specifically for prolonged sitting, perhaps deep, stabilizing muscles that prevent the forward head posture and rounded shoulders that plague modern office workers. These muscles would be powered by enhanced blood supply and might even develop their own specialized metabolism, allowing them to function efficiently during long periods of static contraction. The hands and wrists of our evolving humans would show perhaps the most dramatic changes. The average smartphone user performs over 2,000 touch interactions per day, while computer workers perform tens of thousands of precise finger movements. Carpal tunnel syndrome affects over 3% of adults, caused by repetitive stress on the median nerve as it passes through the narrow carpal tunnel in the wrist. Evolution might address this by literally expanding the tunnel, developing wider carpal bones or additional gaps between existing bones to accommodate the swollen tendons that result from repetitive motion. Our fingers themselves might become longer and more dexterous. The current human finger contains 14 individual muscles, but evolved humans might develop additional intrinsic muscles that allow for even more precise control. The fingertips might become more sensitive, with higher concentrations of nerve endings and perhaps entirely new types of mechanoreceptors that can distinguish between different textures on smooth glass surfaces. Some individuals might develop slightly webbed fingers, not for swimming, but to provide more surface area for interacting with large touch screens. The nervous system adaptations required to control these enhanced appendages would be substantial. The motor cortex, the strip of brain tissue that controls voluntary movement, devotes enormous space to hand and finger control. In evolved humans, this area might expand significantly, perhaps encroaching on areas currently devoted to other functions. The spinal cord pathways that carry signals between brain and hands might become larger and more efficient, wrapped in thicker myelin sheaths that speed neural transmission. These physical changes would reshape human capability in ways we can barely imagine. Imagine a surgeon with evolved hands performing procedures with precision, measured in micrometers, their enhanced proprioception, allowing them to feel the texture of individual cell layers. Artists might create sculptures with detail invisible to current human perception, their evolved fingers capable of manipulating materials at near microscopic scales. Musicians might develop entirely new instruments that take advantage of enhanced finger independence and sensitivity. But evolution wouldn't limit itself to our external adaptations. Our internal systems would undergo equally dramatic changes to cope with the unique stresses of modern life. Consider our cardiovascular system, currently designed for the intermittent high-activity periods of our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Today's humans face chronic low-level stress that keeps our cardiovascular system in a state of constant mild activation. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death globally, affecting over 655 million people worldwide and causing over 17.9 million deaths annually. In an actively evolving population, we might see the development of dual circulatory systems. The primary system would function much like our current cardiovascular system during periods of high activity, but a secondary system might evolve to handle the chronic low-level demands of modern stress. This auxiliary system might consist of smaller, more numerous vessels that create redundant pathways throughout the body. These vessels might be lined with different types of endothelial cells, perhaps ones that are more resistant to the inflammatory effects of chronic stress hormones like cortisol. The heart itself might develop additional chambers or subchambers. While our current 4-chamber heart is efficient for our current metabolism, evolved humans might develop hearts with 6 or 8 chambers, allowing for more precise control of blood flow to different organ systems. During periods of intense mental activity, more blood could be directed to the brain, while during physical activity, flow could be optimized for muscles. Some individuals might even develop dual hearts, with one optimized for brain circulation and another for the rest of the body. Our blood composition would likely evolve as well. Red blood cells might become more efficient oxygen carriers, perhaps developing additional hemoglobin variants optimized for different activities. Some individuals might evolve red blood cells with longer lifespans, reducing the energy cost of constantly producing new cells. Others might develop specialized white blood cells designed to combat the unique pathogens of our modern urban environment. Perhaps cells specifically evolved to fight antibiotic-resistant bacteria or novel viruses that emerge from our global connectivity. The respiratory system would undergo its own remarkable adaptations. Air pollution affects over 90% of the world's population, with fine particulate matter killing over 4.2 million people annually. Our current respiratory system, with its delicate alveoli designed for clean forest air, struggles with the polluted atmosphere of modern cities. Evolved humans might develop additional filtration systems in their nasal passages and bronchi, perhaps lined with specialized cells that can neutralize or sequester pollutants before they reach the delicate lung tissue. The lungs themselves might become more sophisticated. Instead of the current simple sac-like alveoli, evolved humans might develop alveoli with multiple chambers, allowing for more efficient gas exchange even in polluted environments. Some individuals might evolve the ability to temporarily shut down portions of their lung capacity when pollution levels are high, relying on enhanced oxygen storage in modified blood chemistry until air quality improves. But perhaps the most dramatic changes would occur in our nervous system and brain structure. The human brain currently uses about 20% of our total energy consumption, despite weighing only about 3 pounds. Modern life demands unprecedented cognitive processing, from multitasking between multiple information streams to navigating complex social media networks that can include thousands of connections. The average person is exposed to the equivalent of 174 newspapers worth of information daily, 5 times more than in 1986. Evolved brains might develop additional processing centers to handle this information overload. New cortical areas might emerge, perhaps specialized for digital information processing or virtual environment navigation. The hippocampus, crucial for memory formation, might expand significantly or even split into multiple specialized structures. Some individuals might develop separate memory systems for digital information versus physical world experiences, with different neural pathways optimized for each type of recall. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and decision-making, would likely undergo substantial changes. This area might develop additional layers or more sophisticated neural architectures to handle the constant stream of choices modern life presents. Enhanced working memory systems might evolve, allowing individuals to hold and manipulate larger amounts of information simultaneously. Some people might develop the neural equivalent of multiple processing cores, able to truly multitask in ways currently impossible for human brains. Language processing areas would expand dramatically. The average person now communicates through text, voice, video, images, and emojis across multiple platforms simultaneously. Broca's and Wernicke's areas, the traditional language centers, might expand into surrounding brain regions or develop satellite processing centers throughout the cortex. New language areas might evolve specifically for digital communication, optimized for processing abbreviated text, understanding context across fragmented conversations, and interpreting the subtle emotional cues of online interaction. Sleep systems would require complete reorganization. Our current circadian rhythms, evolved for natural light cycles, are constantly disrupted by artificial lighting and screen exposure. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, our body's master clock, might develop additional timing circuits that can operate independently. Some individuals might evolve polyphasic sleep systems, allowing for multiple short sleep periods throughout the day instead of one long nighttime sleep. Others might develop enhanced sleep efficiency, achieving full restoration in 4 or 5 hours instead of the current 8. The endocrine system would undergo equally dramatic changes. Our current hormone systems evolved for environments with predictable seasonal changes and occasional acute stressors. Modern life presents chronic stress, disrupted light cycles, and constant exposure to endocrine-disrupting chemicals. The hypothalamic pituitary-adrenal axis might develop additional regulatory mechanisms to prevent chronic stress hormone elevation. New hormone systems might evolve to regulate our interaction with digital environments, perhaps hormones that promote focus during screen time, or others that facilitate rapid transition between virtual and physical environments. Some individuals might develop enhanced stress resilience through evolved hormone systems that can rapidly reset after stressful events. Others might evolve hormone cycles that synchronize with artificial light schedules rather than natural circadian rhythms. The reproductive system might develop new hormone pathways that maintain fertility, despite the fertility-reducing effects of modern lifestyle factors like chronic stress and environmental toxins. These internal changes would have profound effects on human longevity and health. Current human lifespan is limited partly by the accumulated damage of living in bodies designed for different environments. With evolutionary adaptations to modern life, we might see average lifespans extending to 120 or 150 years. But more importantly, these would be healthy years, with evolved systems that can handle modern stressors without the chronic diseases that currently plague aging populations. The digestive system would adapt to our dramatically altered food environment. Modern humans consume foods that would be entirely alien to our evolutionary ancestors: highly processed products, refined sugars, artificial additives, and global cuisine that exposes us to novel proteins and compounds. Our gut microbiome, containing over 100 trillion bacteria representing thousands of species, might evolve new partnerships with bacteria specifically adapted to process modern foods. The stomach might develop additional enzyme-producing regions or entirely new types of digestive acids. The small intestine, already about 20 feet long in current humans, might become more efficient at nutrient extraction, developing additional villi or modified cell types that can better process artificial additives and extract nutrients from processed foods. Some individuals might evolve the ability to synthesize certain vitamins internally, reducing dependence on dietary sources that are inconsistent in modern processed foods. The large intestine might develop enhanced detoxification systems, with specialized cells that can neutralize or eliminate the artificial preservatives, colorings, and chemical residues that accumulate in modern diets. New types of beneficial bacteria might evolve specifically to handle modern food processing byproducts, creating more resilient gut microbiomes that can maintain health despite dietary inconsistencies. But the changes wouldn't stop with individual human physiology. The social implications of continued human evolution would reshape civilization itself. In a world where humans were actively evolving different traits, we might see the emergence of specialized human populations adapted for specific environments or functions. Urban populations might evolve different traits than rural populations within just a few generations. City dwellers might develop enhanced pollution tolerance, noise adaptation, and crowd navigation abilities. Their nervous systems might become more efficient at filtering irrelevant stimuli, allowing them to focus in environments with constant sensory bombardment. Their social processing capabilities might enhance, developing better abilities to navigate complex urban social hierarchies and maintain relationships across large networks. Rural populations might maintain or enhance different traits: superior spatial navigation, enhanced sensitivity to natural environmental changes, or maintained physical strength and endurance. Their circadian systems might remain more closely tied to natural light cycles, while their immune systems might maintain broader pathogen resistance, adapted to agricultural and natural environments. Occupational populations might develop specialized traits as well. Airline pilots and flight crews might evolve enhanced resistance to cosmic radiation and superior visual processing for instrument navigation. Deep-sea workers might develop improved pressure tolerance and enhanced low-light vision. Computer programmers and digital workers might evolve superior fine motor control and enhanced pattern recognition abilities. The educational system would need complete restructuring to accommodate these evolutionary changes. Current education assumes relatively uniform human cognitive capabilities, but with ongoing evolution, we might see dramatic individual differences in learning styles, processing speeds, and optimal educational environments. Some students might learn best through direct neural interface with digital systems, while others might require enhanced physical manipulation of learning materials. Educational institutions might need to develop specialized tracks, not just based on interest or aptitude, but on evolved cognitive architectures. Some individuals might excel at simultaneous multi-stream information processing, while others might develop superior sequential deep processing abilities. Teachers would need training to recognize and accommodate these evolved differences in learning capacity and style. The workplace would transform beyond recognition. Current job categories assume baseline human physical and cognitive capabilities, but with continued evolution, entirely new categories of work might emerge. Some individuals with evolved sensory capabilities might work in fields we can't currently imagine. Perhaps environmental monitoring specialists who can detect pollutants through enhanced chemical sensitivity, or quality control experts who can perceive material flaws invisible to current human senses. Manufacturing and construction might be revolutionized by workers with evolved strength, precision, or sensory capabilities. Healthcare might see the emergence of diagnostic specialists with evolved abilities to detect subtle physiological changes, or surgical specialists with evolved hand-eye coordination and spatial processing. Research and development might benefit from individuals with evolved pattern recognition or enhanced creativity resulting from modified neural architectures. The economic implications would be staggering. Current economic systems assume relatively uniform human productivity, but with evolutionary divergence, we might see enormous variations in individual economic output. This could lead to unprecedented inequality if not carefully managed, or alternatively to economic systems that optimize for diverse human capabilities rather than attempting to fit everyone into similar roles. Global trade might shift to capitalize on regionally evolved human capabilities. Regions with populations evolved for specific skills might become centers of excellence for related industries. International cooperation might increase as different human populations develop complementary rather than competing abilities. Healthcare systems would require fundamental restructuring. Current medicine assumes relatively uniform human physiology, but with ongoing evolution, medical practitioners would need to understand and treat multiple variants of human biology. Pharmaceutical development would become enormously more complex, as drugs would need to be tested on and optimized for different evolved human populations. New medical specialties would emerge focused on understanding and optimizing evolutionary changes. Some practitioners might specialize in managing the transition periods as individuals develop new capabilities, while others might focus on ensuring that evolutionary changes remain beneficial rather than harmful. Genetic counseling would become far more complex and crucial, helping individuals and families understand and optimize their evolutionary potential. The legal system would face unprecedented challenges. Current law assumes uniform human capabilities and rights, but with evolutionary divergence, questions of equality and fairness would become extraordinarily complex. Should individuals with evolved cognitive capabilities have different voting rights or legal responsibilities? How would contracts and agreements be structured when parties might have dramatically different mental capacities? Criminal justice would require complete rethinking. If some individuals evolved enhanced physical capabilities, while others developed superior cognitive abilities, how would responsibility and punishment be determined? New categories of crime might emerge related to the misuse of evolved abilities, while traditional crimes might become impossible for some populations and trivially easy for others. International relations would be transformed by populations with different evolved capabilities. Military applications of human evolution would be inevitable. raising questions about warfare between populations with different physiological and cognitive abilities. Diplomatic interactions might require new protocols when negotiating parties have evolved different communication capabilities or decision-making processes. But perhaps the most profound changes would be in human relationships and family structures. Current human pair bonding and family formation assume relatively similar lifespans, capabilities, and life trajectories. With ongoing evolution, individuals might have dramatically different aging patterns, cognitive development timelines, or even fundamental personality structures shaped by their evolved neurology. Romantic relationships might require new frameworks when partners have different evolved capabilities or lifespans. Child rearing would become more complex when children might evolve capabilities that exceed their parents' understanding. Educational and developmental milestones would become highly individualized rather than age-based. The concept of human identity itself would undergo transformation. Current human identity assumes a shared baseline of capabilities and experiences, but with ongoing evolution, the definition of human might become fluid and contested. Some individuals might develop capabilities so advanced that their experiences become incomprehensible to others, while maintaining biological continuity with the human species. Religious and philosophical frameworks would require fundamental reconsideration. Many belief systems assume fixed human nature or divine creation of unchanging human form. Continued evolution would challenge these assumptions, potentially leading to new spiritual traditions that embrace transformation and change as fundamental aspects of human existence. Art, literature, and cultural expression would be revolutionized by evolved human capabilities. Artists with enhanced visual perception might create works invisible or incomprehensible to others. Musicians with evolved auditory processing might develop music that incorporates frequencies or harmonic structures beyond current human perception. Writers with modified cognitive architectures might develop narrative forms that reflect nonlinear or multi-stream consciousness. The preservation and transmission of culture would become challenging when different evolved populations might have incompatible ways of experiencing and interpreting cultural artifacts. Museums and libraries might need to develop multiple presentation formats optimized for different evolved sensory and cognitive capabilities. Scientific research would accelerate dramatically as researchers with evolved cognitive capabilities tackle problems beyond current human comprehension. Mathematics might advance rapidly as individuals with enhanced pattern recognition and abstract reasoning tackle previously intractable problems. Physics and chemistry research might benefit from individuals with evolved sensory capabilities who can directly perceive phenomena currently requiring sophisticated instruments. But this acceleration might also create new challenges, as scientific knowledge outpaces the ability of non-evolved humans to understand and verify results. Scientific peer review would require matching reviewers with compatible evolved capabilities, potentially creating isolated knowledge communities. The timeline for these changes would depend on the mechanism driving accelerated evolution. If caused by environmental pressures alone, beneficial traits might spread through populations over several generations, perhaps 50 to 100 years for significant changes. But if enhanced by genetic technologies or other interventions, changes might appear within single lifetimes, creating unprecedented social disruption as populations rapidly diverge. The transition period would likely be the most challenging aspect of continued human evolution. Current social, economic, and political systems assume stable, human capabilities over timescales of decades or centuries. Rapid evolutionary change would require constant adaptation of these systems, potentially creating periods of instability or conflict as different groups adapt at different rates or in different directions. However, the ultimate result might be a human species far more capable and adaptable than our current form. Instead of the chronic mismatch between our Stone Age bodies and modern environment, evolved humans might be optimally adapted for technological civilization. The stress-related diseases that currently plague modern populations might become historical curiosities as our physiology catches up with our environment. Mental health might improve dramatically as evolved nervous systems become capable of handling modern information loads and social complexity without the anxiety and depression that currently affect hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Physical health might reach new peaks as evolved bodies become resistant to pollution, optimized for modern diets, and capable of thriving in artificial environments. The greatest benefit might be the unleashing of human potential currently constrained by our evolutionary limitations. With enhanced cognitive capabilities, improved physical resilience, and optimized physiology, evolved, humans might solve problems that seem intractable today. Climate change, resource scarcity, disease, and even aging might become manageable challenges rather than existential threats. But this transformation would come with the price of losing our shared human experience. The common struggles and limitations that currently unite all humans might disappear as different populations develop along divergent evolutionary paths. The poetry of human striving against natural limitations might be lost as those limitations are evolved away. Yet perhaps this is simply the next chapter in the human story. Our species has already undergone tremendous changes from our earliest ancestors, developing language, abstract thought, and the capacity for civilization. Continued evolution might simply be the next step in humanity's journey toward realizing our full potential in the universe we've created around ourselves. The question isn't whether continued human evolution would be beneficial or problematic, but whether we're prepared for the profound transformations it would bring to every aspect of human existence. In a world where our bodies are finally catching up to our technology and environment, we would become something simultaneously more than human and utterly, recognizably ourselves.